the former US CENTCOM Commander General Joseph Votel, saying Iran is using the Strait of Hormuz as strategic leverage in a wider confrontation. The likely trajectory for future US military operations is a prolonged mission. General Votel joins us now for more. General, welcome to the programme, sir. We're all well familiar with the situation in the Middle East. We understand the importance to energy. We can just about identify the Strait of Hormuz on a map. General, for people who haven't been there, who don't understand what it actually looks like to go through that waterway, why is it so difficult to get energy flowing, even now?
Oh, thanks. Good morning, John. It's good to be with you. Well, first of the reason, geographically, it's a very narrow passageway. The main transit routes are only about 2 miles long. The water in the strait is generally pretty shallow. It's very rocky, particularly on the Omani Emirati side, and it's really subject to weather. It's when you go through the Straits of Hormuz, it's very difficult to see. It's very difficult to, kind of be oriented to where you are. So it's just a very, very difficult portion of water to get through. And of course, it's dominated geographically by Iran. You can't dispute the fact that on at least, 3 sides of it as you go through, the Iranians have the geographical advantage here.
General, yesterday, the Wall Street Journal said the Navy started assisting in terms of escorts of vessels through the Strait, and then CENTCOM came out and said they're not currently escorting commercial vessels. If we were to see mass escorts, what would that look like?
Yeah, Anne Maria, what that would generally look like is the commitment of a number of our destroyers, probably somewhere in the order of 15 to 20 that would be dedicated to the mission. And what they would basically do is not only picket and put naval maritime assets in key positions where they could provide protection over the top of these convoys, but they'd also be in a position where they would be escorting them. Sometimes we might try to bring together a number of tankers and then move them as a package through the Gulf with close escort by U.S. Navy destroyers, or we may move them in smaller packets, or we may try to do what I would describe kind of as a zone defense, create a bubble under which these ships can move. But important to do that is we have to be certain that they can move through safely, so they aren't going to bump into mines. They're not going to be subject to attacks from the Iranians, and that's what takes up a lot of the resources. It's the mine clearing, it's the defensive resources we have to put in place, is the number of ships that we have to have there in order to do that, to relieve the pressure in the Gulf right now.
Well, based off the U.S. presence right now, would the United States be able to undertake this?
Well, I think there's certainly a considerable amount of maritime resources in the region, and I think probably I'm an Army guy talking here, but I think probably with the resources that are in place, we probably could certainly begin to do some type of escort missions. But that would likely come at the cost of other things we're doing. So it would be difficult for us to maintain a blockade and to escort. Of course, it isn't just maritime assets, it's U.S. Air Force assets. It's in some cases ground resources with our Marines or military Army organizations that have to man air defense sites and have to be prepared to board ships and have to be prepared to go ashore if we need to remove threats. So it's a more comprehensive effort. So there's enough force to probably do some of that right now, but it would really limit our ability to do anything else.
General, this doesn't seem to be what a lot of people are talking about with respect to striking a deal. They expect a resolution to the conflict. How do you understand some of the discussions around the negotiations between the U.S. and Iran and assertions that we are close to reaching some sort of deal?
Well, we're working through interlocutors right now, and for the last several weeks, it's been the Pakistanis, and now most recently the Qataris have joined. Of course, they're recognized and very capable negotiators who we have a lot of trust in, and so I'm sure there are discussions going back and forth and some communications that would give people the impression that we are making some progress on this, and I hope that we are. I mean, I think it's in our interest certainly to resolve this. But fundamentally, negotiations and are about trust. It's about trust between both sides. And of course, that's lacking between the United States and Iran right now. And then there are fundamental differences on the major issues, whether it's non-proliferation, whether it's the highly enriched uranium and what happens with that, whether it's what happens with sanctions and frozen assets, or the status of the Straits of Hormuz. How do we get it back to kind of the open passageway that it was, or the situation in Lebanon? I think it's important. Most Americans are not necessarily paying attention to what's happening in Lebanon, but it is directly linked, certainly in the eyes of the Iranians, to what is happening in the Gulf.